Today, we're looking at Robert Oster's Turquoise. It's like it's a turquoise battle of the last couple days. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Robert Oster's Turquoise is a turquoise ink. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples, I put the ink into a different pen for a day, I then put it into a Lamy All-Star with a 1.1 stub to take my notes for this video. Now before we look at the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is the chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And what we see is this immediately pushes up and we get this very light green and a vivid blue at the top, a vivid bright blue, not dark blue. The one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And it basically looks the same. I don't expect this to have any kind of resistance because those two chromatographies look almost exactly the same. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pens. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I am shocked how well this did based on the chromatography. That extra fine is about a fine. There's no blowout. It's absolutely readable. It doesn't get fuzzy at all. It makes me feel good using this in a note-taking situation. Now water's reactivating and lifting the darkest tones. We are starting to see some of the dots of the rhodia paper coming through. I really do think that with more than 30 seconds, the water will get all of this ink out of your pen. However, if it didn't, pen flush certainly will. Now that brown spot that's kind of there, that's from a transfer on a paper towel, a little bit sloppy on my part. However, the pen flush is completely removing it from the paper, making it very white, easy to see the dots from the rhodia dot pad saying pen flush is all you should need. Now, even though you don't need the 1/3 bleach solution, it will completely remove it from the paper. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Robert Oster's Turquoise has a viscosity of 1.87, making this a wetter ink. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done with the extra fine and medium nib on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and rhodia paper. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Robert Oster's Turquoise has an average dry time of 16 seconds, making it normal. Now, let's look at the writing samples.
I picked this ink up in sample form, and to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairefontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. It's a beautiful, dark turquoise with that 1.1 here. The extra fine is basically the same tone as the 1.1. It has no feather spread, halo sheen. It offers spots of darker, like the K in quick, the P in jumps, the D in dry, the L in lazy. The word the is significantly darker than the word over. It took 11 seconds to dry. Now the medium is a lighter tone than the extra fine or the 1.1. The medium has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and the shading really comes through here. It's very nice shading. It does add a bit of personality in a really nice way. It's not over-the-top shading, although admittedly I love over-the-top shading. But if you like a subtle shade, this does it. Like in Fox, it's, normally I get the F and the X are darker, but here the O is darker. B in brown is darker, K in quick is darker, A in lazy is darker, H in the is darker. So we see some nice shading in here, and it just adds a little something nice. It took 16 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine showed no color variation, although we did get spots of darker. The scrubby of the medium shows plenty of color variation, and there is plenty. And the smear test, you could likely recover it if you smeared while you were writing. Tomoe River, no bleeding. Yes, we get some ghosting. It's the paper. The 1.1 has no feather spread. It has halo all over it. Beautiful halo. That's not spread on it together. That's me not writing really well with the stub at that point. No sheen, no shade. The extra fine has no feather spread. It also has halo. Very nice halo throughout. And the tone on this paper is magnificent. No sheen, no shade, 16 seconds to dry. The scrubby is the same tone as the extra fine and the 1.1. The scrubby has no feather, no spread, and halo all over it. It's gorgeous. No sheen, no shade, 26 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine and the medium show no color variation. We got none, but it shows the halo, which we got. And the smear test you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. Rhodia. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, but it has spots of shading like the B in Roberts, darker. The T and the Q in Turquoise, darker. The top loop of the O in Oster and the top of the T in Oster, both darker. Very nice. The extra fine is the same tone as the 1.1. It has no feather spread, halo sheen, and it offers spots of shading, just like the 1.1 did. The K in quick, the B in brown, the M in jumps, the D in dog, very nice. LA in lazy is darker than the ZY. Very nice. 10 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine in the 1.1. It has no feather spread, halo sheen, but no shading comes through here. Not in the writing at least. 18 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show color variation. We got it in the extra fine, but we did not get it in the medium. The smear test you could likely recover if you smeared while you were writing. Monokaki. Monokaki. No bleeding. We do get ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is slightly lighter in tone than the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shading, 9 seconds to dry. The medium is a significantly darker tone than the extra fine. It's slightly darker than the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade, 15 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us a little bit of color variation, a lot more in the extra fine, but we saw none up there. The medium, if you look far left to far right, you can see the color variation, but I didn't get any in the writing sample. And the smear test, I do not think you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. What is this? TWSBI. TWSBI. I like TWSBI paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shading. This paper normally doesn't give out a whole lot of shading though, so that's, fairly expected. The extra fine is the same tone as the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and only a couple spots of darker. Like the K in quick is a little bit darker, the L in lazy a little bit darker. The word the is significantly darker than the word brown. So the shading's there, it's possible, it's just not coming through a whole lot during the writing. And 11 seconds to dry. Now medium is a significantly darker tone than the extra fine or the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shading. 16 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine shows plenty of color variation, and there is some up there. It's just not doing as well as it could. The medium shows none, and we got none, and a smear test you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. Last up is Moji paper. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shading. 9 seconds to dry. The medium is a significantly darker tone. Significantly darker than the extra fine or the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shade. 12 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby of the extra fine shows some color variation, although we got none, and the scrubby of the medium shows none, and we got none. The smear test, I do not think you could recover this if you smeared while you were writing, and that is all that I have for the writing sample.
Instead of finding inks that look like Robert Oster's Turquoise, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. And I really wanted a bright red. I went with Private Reserve's Fiesta Red. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Robert Oster's Turquoise? This is a very interesting color that adds real personality to your writing. And when I'm saying the color, I don't just mean the turquoise, I mean this turquoise. This turquoise has something very interesting that goes on in the writing. And you get some very subtle color variations throughout the writing, which is also nice to see. Thanks for watching.